Sunday Morning Live. I'm your host, Aaron Tomlinson, coming to you on Facebook and YouTube, and I need to share on another on another platform here. So give you guys a chance to log on. Those that watch consistently, I appreciate those of you that watch live for sure. All of you that watch, whether it's live or later, I appreciate you. Thanks for commenting, sharing, and thanks for donating. Gotten a lot of really nice and generous donations lately from people. Really appreciate that. There's a link in the description if you want to make a donation. Every little bit helps. So anyway, I appreciate that. Today we want to talk about, do our thoughts, our prayers, our words, our intentions, our feelings have any effect on reality around us? Do we actually create reality with our thoughts, or how does some of that work? So I want to revisit that, talk about that. Not everybody knows, particularly if you just watch the YouTube channel, but some of you know that I was in the hospital a couple of weeks ago for about 4 days dealing with a pretty serious health condition. And someone had asked me to share about, my thoughts about divine healing, faith healing, having been involved in that in my past life as a minister and a pastor, and then facing my own health challenges. Really the first major significant health challenge that I've had in my life. The reason I hesitated is because I injured my neck pretty significantly and had to have neck surgery. That also sucked. That's just been in the last 4 years. So I just wanted to share my thoughts and my ideas about what I'm doing to try to recover and get better, apart from just following the doctor's orders and taking medicine, all that stuff. Am I using faith? Am I using prayer? Am I using my thoughts? What am I doing? Someone had asked me to share about that. So I thought I'd share some of that today within the broader context of just the question, are thoughts things? Do thoughts affect or influence our reality? So again, while I'm waiting for some people to jump on, I'm just going to share this in a couple places. Hope everybody's doing well. And enjoying the fall. Okay. All right, so let's just jump into the topic. Let me give you a little bit of background for those that don't know. Maybe this is the first time you're tuning in and watching this. Don't know a lot about me. I was a Christian minister for 2 decades of my life, I guess, pretty close to 2 decades of my life. I actually started when I was 18, so closer to 3 decades of my life. When I was 18, I started as a youth minister in a Methodist church. That was my first job in ministry. Did that for a while. Then I served as a Sunday school teacher, assistant pastor, did children's ministry. Like I said, did youth ministry, associate pastor, did a lot of mission work, traveled a lot, was a senior pastor, started our own church with some founding members and a small group of people, built that up successfully. Again, traveled and did, one of the things that I did was I did healing conferences within various different churches that I was in relationship with, both nationally and internationally. We would show up at churches that were charismatic. And so in that sense, they believed in gifts of the Spirit. They believed in healing. They believed in miracles. They believed in, the supernatural operations of the gifts of the Holy Spirit. The problem was they never really saw a lot of it, not a lot that would really deliver on the goods. Everybody, would speak in tongues or do prophecy, but those are pretty easy to fake. Let's be honest. Those are spiritual gifts that are easy to fake. And so we would go in, we would hold Miracle service, healing service. People would get healed. People would experience miracles. We do that on a Friday night. Then we do a training on Saturday to train people how to do what we did. And then I'd preach on Sunday and leave. And these were usually these sort of weekend events that we would do and stuff like that. So I did that for a number of years. Ended up deconstructing from much of the faith in 2016 and getting out of the ministry basically when the pandemic happened in 2020, getting out of Christian ministry, still trying to find my way forward since the pandemic. I don't know how many of you can relate to that, trying to find your way forward since the pandemic, but yeah, so been doing these live videos, been doing some YouTube videos off and on when I have the opportunity, and still trying to share with people and offer people stuff that they can relate to, that hopefully provides some value for them in their lives. Just want to check something real quick online here. Not seeing comments today for some reason. I'm not sure why. Because I can see some of you have commented on the Facebook. So good to see those of you that are watching by Facebook. I'll try and keep an eye on those comments as well. So one of the things that we taught when we were in Christian ministry was principles of faith, what we might call the law of faith or concepts of faith. This idea that our believing, speaking to the mountain, Jesus said, I preach probably Mark 11, 22, 23, 24 as much as anybody, where Jesus said, if you have faith, you can say to the mountain, be removed and cast in the sea. And if you don't doubt in your heart, but believe that those things which you say shall come to pass, that it'll obey you and you'll have whatever you say. Therefore, whatsoever things you desire when you pray, believe that you've received them and you shall have them. So we taught people that their faith would make a difference. Now, I do need to distinguish between the way we taught faith within Christianity and from the Bible versus the way that most people think about faith. We taught faith as something that was inherently powerful and divine within us, that we would use to transform or change things on the physical plane, whether that was our health, the health of someone else, whether that was a financial situation, whatever kind of circumstantial situation it was a power inherent within us that originated within our own hearts, originated within our own thoughts and feelings, and had an effect on the physical plane or the world around us. So in that sense, it wasn't that much different than what some people might call mind over matter, the ability to project your thoughts or control your thinking or have positive thinking that would then affect things in the material world. What we did not teach about faith was that faith was something that you had to have towards God or in God. In other words, faith that originated as a mental practice, as an emotional practice, as an inward practice of consciousness towards God in the sky, that if I could believe the promise of God, if I could believe in the future outcome that it would happen and believe it with certainty, then somehow God would reward that faith by effecting an outcome or effecting a change from God's throne in heaven. So most people with religious beliefs, most people within Christian churches tend to believe that their prayers, their believing, their ideas, their thoughts and feelings are somehow affecting God in terms of affecting God's will or God's desire to intervene in a situation and disrupt the natural order of things or change the outcome. So the idea is this sort of, I'm doing something, again, with my prayer, with my actions, with my words, with my believing, that is being sent from me up towards God in heaven in the invisible world somewhere. And then God is receiving that and it is affecting God in some way, that God is then intervening on behalf of what I'm wishing or hoping for. And God, through direct intervention and will, is causing what I'm believing or hoping for or wishing for to come to pass. Now, most people won't break it down for you that succinctly in terms of cause and effect when what they think that their prayers are doing, but that's essentially what it is. And so then we get involved in these ideas of like pleasing a parent. It's almost like this, I mean, religion in a lot of ways, the way it's practiced, the way it's taught is infantilization of people. It infantilizes you. It turns you into an infant or a child. Because if you think about it, my children would act that way, right? And as they get older, they act less so this way. But particularly when they were younger, they would try to get me to decide to buy them something, take them someplace, feed them something, give them something, do something for them. And they might try to please me, do something that would please me, you know, so clean their room or pull some weeds or something that might be pleasing to me, because if I'm pleased, then I'm more inclined to want to do favors for them. And if I do favors for them, then they can get what they want. In other cases, they might nag. This is more often than not, the nagging, constantly asking. And there's actually passages in the Bible that seem to teach that, you know, if you're diligent and persistent in prayer and you just keep bugging God and keep bugging God and keep bugging God, you know, he'll get up and give you what you want just to make you go away. So there's this idea of persistent prayer, that if we continually pray all the time, we do prayer vigils, we have somebody holding vigil for someone all the time, and it's like we're constantly pounding on God's door, constantly reminding him, constantly sort of nagging him, and eventually maybe he'll get tired of it, or we will have done it enough, we will have asked and begged and pleaded enough that God will decide to intervene on our behalf and give it to us. Or we might use a democratic view that, you know, if we can get enough people praying, we get enough votes, we get enough prayer power, we would call it. If we can get enough prayer power here, we can really make something happen. We can really make revival happen if we get enough prayer power here, if we get enough intercession here, if we get enough people essentially voting, then God will say, oh, well, it looks like the vast majority wants this. So, but to really break it down, how does that change God's mind? Either, you know, I pleased God, I did something that pleased God, maybe I had enough faith, so I pleased God, so then God acted and intervened on the situation. Or I nagged God enough that God got tired of me, just wants me to go away, just wants me to shut up. Or I demonstrated enough persistence. Oh, he really, really wants this. Look how persistent he's been. Okay, we're going to grant this, kind of like a parent to a child. Or the democratic method, we get enough people voting. Oh, well, I guess they all want it down there. Or we get enough prayer power going, get enough intercession going, then God decides. But you can see the agency is always, we're doing something to affect a change in God, to get God to do something, to get the man on the throne to do something. And then God, from that place and position of authority, makes a decision, and then God acts. And so the sickness gets healed, the disease gets better, the person gets the new job, the money comes in, the relationship changes, the church grows, the revival happens, my kids get off drugs, or my loved ones get off drugs. because we generated enough of this kind of stuff to affect God. If you got other ideas about that, feel free to share that in the comments. If I missed something or you have something to add or contribute to that, by all means, please feel free to do that. So we didn't really teach it that way. What we taught was that Jesus was teaching in the Gospels that by activating faith within ourselves, by activating something within our own consciousness, by turning a lock or a key within our own way of thinking and feeling and being and acting, that it would release something, that a force, a power, an energy that would cause change to happen on the physical plane, that would allow things to align up a certain way. So if in your consciousness you could create healing by believing that you've received healing, or if you're in your consciousness you could create abundance by believing that you already have abundance. In your consciousness you could create receiving a certain amount of money by believing you already have the money, or receiving a thing by believing that you already have the thing. In other words, you're creating it as an idea in the imagination and in the mind, and then settling it as real in the feeling sense. So this would go completely contrary and completely counter, completely and totally opposite to everything that's taught about prayer within the Christian world, or really within any kind of religious world. Because, so just take Mark 11:24, whatsoever things you desire when you pray, believe that you have received them and you will have them. If you believe that you've already received something, you're not going to keep asking over and over and over again for it, because to ask over and over and over again for it would sort of reveal the fact that you don't think you already have it, right? I mean, if I think I've already got it, I don't have to keep asking for it. My son wanted to get into 3D printing, and so he asked and asked and asked and asked and asked last year. This time last year, building up to Christmas, he asked and asked and asked and asked and asked and asked and asked for 3D printer, kept showing me 3D printers, kept looking at different ones and looking at the reviews and showing them to me and putting them in his cart and asking over and over and over again. And sorry, I just saw a comment come up. Kimberly says, why do people fake spiritual gifts? I get to seem more important, but how is that fulfilling in their own walk? Yeah, that's a great question. I might come back to that, because that really is a great question. Why would I fake spiritual gifts? I get to seem more important. I think that is the answer for a lot of people, but how is that fulfilling? It's not. At least I can't imagine that it is. Anyway, back to the printer. So we got him the printer for Christmas. When he got the printer, he stopped asking for it. He stopped researching it. He started using the printer because he had the printer. So if he would have believed that I already purchased it, let's say that I purchased it but wasn't going to give it to him until Christmas. So let's say he starts bugging me for it in September of last year, and I buy it in September and let him know I bought it, and we're waiting for it to arrive, and he won't get to open it until Christmas Day. He may not have access to it. He may not be able to use it until Christmas Day, but he's not going to keep asking for it over and over and over again. So this idea that we could believe that we have something, believe that something is already a reality for us, then that negates nagging, that negates asking over and over again. That would even negate asking someone else to ask on your behalf. So maybe my son would get his brother to ask for the 3D printer, Elijah to come up to me and say, Josiah really wants that 3D printer. But if he knows it's already been bought, if he knows it's already been purchased, if he knows he already has it, then he's not going to even try to get other people to ask for it. So we're negating those things, because I don't have to change anybody's mind. I don't have to get anybody to decide that I can have it. I don't have to get God to do this for me because God's higher power or God's authority. I already believe that I've received it. I already believe that I have it. And so that would be kind of how we would teach people to create the reality from the inside, create the reality in your mind, in your imagination, and in your feelings. And then this is the tricky part, sort of let it go and see what happens. In other words, if I'm still trying to force it, if I'm getting up every day trying to make sure that my mind is focused on this idea that I have it, then I don't really believe that I have it, because I'm still stressing about it. I'm still trying to make it happen. I'm still trying to force it to happen. If I believe that it's in the cart, if I believe that it's shipping, that it's on its way, if I believe that it's going to show up under the Christmas tree on Christmas Day, I'm relaxed about it. I'm not waking up the next day and checking the cart to make sure, yeah, it was really bought. I checked yesterday and saw that it was bought. I don't have to get up today and check it again. And so there's this relaxation, there's this letting go, there's this not striving for it, not working for it, not trying to force it, not trying to make it happen. So I'm not saying that all of this is correct. I'm simply illustrating how we used to teach prayer when I was in the church versus how other people would do it, right? So, and we would see a lot of results with that. I saw a lot of results in my own life and with other people, teaching people to operate in that way. Now, fast forward several years, come out of the church, deconstruct from a lot of that stuff, get around the teachings of Neville Goddard. Some of you know who that is. Some of you may not know who that is, but it's sort of, he was a leader in New Thought. So the New Thought teachings of the early 20th century. Some of you are familiar with Neville Goddard. Teachings on the law of attraction, teachings on the secret. And it's like, oh, wow. There are other people out here with no religious affiliations, no religious fidelities, who are teaching these same principles and claiming that they work for people. Now, walking that through with people as a pastor, in other words, not just being a teacher, someone who writes a book or puts something on YouTube or, comes into a town and preaches and then leaves, but actually being a pastor and walking this through with people, teaching people this, and then being involved in their lives as they face various different challenges and trials and tribulations and things that come up in their lives, and having, whether it's sickness or whether it's loss of a job or any number of things, walking this through with people, it's a little bit different. So before anybody wants to criticize me too much, please understand, it wasn't like, oh, we're teaching you this fancy stuff and then we're taking the offering and then see ya, wouldn't want to be ya. Oh, I guess that didn't happen for you because you didn't have enough faith. That didn't happen for you because you weren't enough of a believer. That didn't happen for you because you doubted, whatever. We didn't do any of that kind of crap. We walked with people through their situations. We held their hands through those situations. We experienced the breakthroughs and the victories, and we experienced the defeats and the failures with people. And so is that something that operated 100% of the time, worked 100% of the time? Obviously, clearly, that's not the case. People who try the law of attraction, is it working for them 100% of the time? Obviously, that's not the case. People that follow Joe Dispenza and go to Joe Dispenza conferences and do Joe Dispenza's meditations and stuff like that, is it working for them 100% of the time? Probably not. I don't know if he's claiming that it does. And I don't know. I'm not close enough to it to know if it does. I'm only speaking from my personal experience. So the question becomes, does our mind, do our thoughts have any effect at all? Now, clearly, if you don't believe in God, or you don't believe in the traditional concept of God as I don't know how to say it, the monarch in the sky, the king in the sky, the guy sitting on the throne, then you don't believe that you're praying, that your words, that your thoughts, that your feelings are impacting a deity, because you don't believe a deity exists. But does that then negate the idea that your thoughts, that your feelings can impact your body, impact your health, or have an impact beyond that in some sort of almost magical way? Not just like, I mean, obviously, if you have a positive, persevering attitude about something, you've got a better chance of accomplishing whatever the goal is. So if you set a goal, let's say it could be something as simple as to lose weight. I set a goal to lose weight and get in shape and take care of myself over the next 6 months. And I have enough willpower and I have enough positive mindset to get into the gym and work through the pain and discomfort of getting into shape, have a plan, have a diet plan, follow all those things, stick to it, have a positive mental attitude about it. Obviously, then that is going to affect an outcome, because your mind caused your body to take an action. So I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about the power of positive thinking in its ability to get us to take action. I'm talking about do our thoughts and feelings, question I'm asking is, do our thoughts and feelings have an impact outside the body? In other words, have an impact outside of our just taking action. In other words, can I think and imagine abundance and then have opportunity or money or both fall into my lap because I was thinking thoughts of abundance? Can I change my entire health score by just thinking thoughts of health and not doing other things in addition to that? Now, again, remember, I'm going through this personally in my life right now. It's one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this. All right, so let's just unpack health first of all, because we know by science, this isn't Aaron, this isn't religion, this isn't spirituality, this is science. Absolutely science. We know that our thoughts and our beliefs absolutely can have miraculous results in our bodies. 100% we know that. And it can do it 1/3 of the time or more. 1/3 of the time or more. Now, Aaron, how can you make a statement like that? Really simple. Any, what they would call evidence-based healing intervention, any evidence-based, in other words, it's been tried in a laboratory, it's been observed, it's been measured, and it's been repeated. Any healing intervention in any healing modality that is based on science accepts this as a reality, accepts that your thoughts and your beliefs can change miraculously, magically, conditions in your body 1/3 of the time, almost nearly 1/3 of the time. How can I say that? Because whether it is a vaccination, shouldn't say that, probably get dumped just for bringing up the V word. But it's something we can relate to because wherever we stand on that issue, because it's been in front of us. Whether it's a new drug, whether it is a new surgical procedure, whether it is a new massage technique in massage therapy, whether it is an intervention in clinical mental health counseling, in order for it to pass the scientific test, there has to be a placebo group that is tested. There has to be a placebo group that is tested. Now, what is a placebo group? A placebo, no, so typically most people think of a placebo as being a sugar pill, and that's true, but they also do this with massage. They also do this with clinical mental health. Any healing modality that has been run through science has to have a placebo group, has to have a group receiving a treatment that is designed not to affect any change in the condition. They receive something that is designed not to affect any change in their condition, but they are to believe that they're receiving a treatment that will affect a change in their condition. So that's the sugar pill. Sugar pill is not doing anything. It's just adding sugar to your body, but you believe that it's going to fix your diabetes. And all of a sudden it fixes your diabetes. Or you believe it's going to fix your heart problem. All of a sudden it fixes your heart problem. Or you believe it's going to do whatever, take the pain away. You're getting a massage technique that doesn't do anything to fix the condition that you have, but you believe that it's going to fix the condition that it has, and it fixes the condition that it has. In other words, science recognizes, and you can look it up, about 1/3 of the time, this works. So just by believing and expecting that you're going to get a healing outcome will cause a healing outcome to happen. So much so that in order for anything to be accepted as a valid treatment, it has to rule out that 1/3 of the time placebo effect from happening. That's science. So if science is telling us that our positive mental beliefs, that our thoughts, that our feelings are affecting changes in our body that are magical and miraculous without any intervention from the outside world, then that's something that we can accept as scientific fact. Again, this isn't religion. This isn't spooky spirituality. This isn't law of attraction. This is something that's recognized scientifically. Recognized scientifically. Okay. What about going beyond physical healing? What about into other things? So here's the interesting thing. Almost every group of humanity that's ever existed on the planet, anywhere, at any time, has believed in magic or has believed in the ability for consciousness, something in consciousness, something in thought, something in mind, to produce an effect in the external world, to produce an effect on the physical plane. It's really fascinating is to go all the way back, even to Neanderthals. Now, I can hear people's minds blowing up and exploding and saying, but we know so much more. And it's true. We do. We know a lot more about the physical world and the physical plane and things that science is really good at studying. We know a lot more than we ever have. But it's very arrogant, very, very arrogant. It's just downright stupid in my mind. It's arrogant. It's dismissive to dismiss all the rest of humanity, every other culture on the planet, even current present ones on the planet that believe that changes can be made through consciousness, through mind power or mental power, or what people have called magic. So much so that they can find burial sites for Neanderthals, and they will find talismans and magical articles and religious relics and rituals and stuff like that. So what I'm saying is it's something that's inherent within consciousness, even from the very beginning, this idea and this concept. And this is not something that we as modern people have to completely reject. There are really smart people out there, people that are way smarter than me, who are advocating and making excellent arguments, very excellent intellectual and scientific arguments for idealism as opposed to realism or scientific materialism, which would say that, these little things of matter that we can see and observe and measure and quantify is not base reality, but that base reality is consciousness itself. It is mind itself. That all this other stuff is the byproduct of mind. And this is something, again, people like Bernardo Kastrup, people like Dr. Donald Hoffman, people like Rupert Sheldrake, I think it is, just to name a few, who are making really solid arguments based on modern discoveries, based on cutting edge science, based on discoveries in neuroscience and with consciousness, based on all kinds of various different things. I would invite you to read Bernardo Kastrup's book, Why Materialism is Baloney, because he makes really solid arguments in there for why materialism is baloney. And this is a guy that, worked at CERN, worked on AI, and has, I think, at least 2 doctorate degrees. So this isn't just me saying this. So I don't understand people that are just so easily dismissive of that stuff. It's almost like the Dunning-Kruger effect when that happens. But if you think about it this way, if consciousness is base reality, then of course, if we can participate in consciousness, if we can get outside, now here's the trick, if we can get outside of our little world of consciousness and get into higher levels of consciousness, get into higher levels of mind, then absolutely it would make sense that we can bring about change in the physical realm. And I've seen it happen over and over and over and over again when people accept that this is a possibility. Again, not praying to God, trying to get God to do anything, but just accepting that this is a possibility. Accessing higher realms of consciousness. Now, the reason this doesn't work for most people is because we don't think, for whatever reason, that it should require any level of skill. We don't think it should require any level of training. We don't think it should require any level of discipline. If it works, it should just work. This is one of the reasons I crack up, when people try to say, there really was solid scientific evidence for ESP. There really is, I said was, but was and is solid scientific evidence for precognition, back when that was still considered an area that was worthy of being studied, back in the mid 20th century. Now, why that's scoffed at today is because people tried to reproduce those experiments and they failed. But again, sometimes research just fails because failure is built into the design of the experiment. In other words, this stuff not only takes some natural ability, it does take discipline, it does take training, it does take practice. It takes a level of skill. And there are very few people, because we just automatically dismiss this. We automatically say this can't happen. We automatically say, no, of course, our thoughts and feelings don't affect the natural world. So what we end up doing then is, why would we practice? Why would we work on that? Why would we try to develop any skill, or why would anybody try to develop any skill? And then we test people that don't have any skills. So, for example, let's just say that I wanted to design an experiment to see if it was possible to throw a football, a 30-yard, let's say, fade pattern over the right shoulder into double coverage for a touchdown. And I just pull a couple people off the street who haven't developed that skill, haven't practiced it, haven't timed it. And I get them to run those plays against some people and see how often they connect, or how often does the person throwing the ball put the ball in the right place. So if I just pulled people off the street, I could get 1,000 people probably and have potentially 1,000 people never complete that pass, because let's just say most of them can't even get it 30 yards anyway. Then I could say that's impossible. See, that doesn't exist. There's no possible way that that could be a play, or that could be accomplished. Well, the problem's in the design. And that's what's happened with a lot of, parapsychology and stuff. They just kind of pull people in off the street that don't know what they're doing to see if human beings have this ability or this talent. Same kind of thing. People try, I'm going to try this sort of law of attraction thing. I'm going to try this faith thing. I'm going to try this healing thing. And yeah, that didn't work. And I know 10 other friends that tried it and it didn't work. And so therefore it's not possible. It's to me, it's the same as saying, certain athletic feats aren't possible. Or, use a different analogy. Certain complex pieces of music cannot be played on the piano because you can't find anybody who could actually accomplish it. So therefore it doesn't exist and it's not possible. To me, it's the same kind of thing. People say, well, if it exists, then where is it? Well, I just told you. I just told you. Like, there are still groups of people that have shamans in their communities that can affect healings through shamanic journeys, through travel, through thought and mind. There are still people that can peer, however they do this, through the lens of the future and predict future outcomes with accuracy and have it happen. But again, these are people who have worked with this and have practiced this and have mastered this and have been trained in this and have been initiated in this, sometimes for generations. A true shaman, they would be recognized for their gifting very young, quite young in the tribe, and they would be given to the priests. They would be given to the other shaman, other medicine healers in the community to train and develop those gifts. And they would do that for a lifetime. So yeah, maybe they can get some results that the rest of us can't get. That doesn't negate the reality of it. So bringing this back home to the rest of us that didn't grow up in those environments and didn't practice that. Couple of things I would suggest. Meditation is really good. Meditation is really important. Because for most of us, we have the same thoughts. We think the same thoughts every day. Our thoughts are repetitive. We follow the same patterns as a result of those thoughts. In other words, we get up on the same side of the bed. We go through the same morning routine, shower, brush our teeth, all that stuff. Hopefully we do that. Take the same road or pathway or drive to work. In other words, we have these habits and patterns, and then our mind is occupied by whatever material thing or circumstantial thing is in front of us. So we're thinking about what we got to do that day at work. We're thinking about dinner, maybe after work. We're thinking about how we're going to solve this problem or that problem that's immediately facing us, whether it's how we're going to pay our bills, how we're going to pay our medical expenses, how we're going to heal if we need to heal from something, who our friends are, what our friends are doing, what kind of car are we driving, what kind of house do we live in, what kind of paycheck, what kind of zip code. We meet friends. Do we have things in common? If we have things in common, what do we have in common? Usually those things that we have in common are, we both like to play racquetball or pickleball, or we both like to watch professional football, or we like the same professional football team. In other words, you get the point. Everything is just focused on the immediate, and we have these thoughts over and over and over again, and that becomes our state of consciousness. That becomes our state of mind. If your state of mind is 100% materialism, if your state of mind is 100% attached to the people, places, and things, and the verbs of those people, places, and things, in other words, the nouns and the verbs, the people, places, and things, and the actions of those people, places, and things, and that's all I'm thinking about. And I absolutely, if I don't believe that my thoughts, my feelings have any effect whatsoever in any kind of a magical or powerful way on the world around me or on my own personal body, physical health, then of course I'm not even thinking those thoughts. So I'm locked into this level, this plane of consciousness, thinking, repetitive thinking over and over and over again, then I'm going to just continue to manifest the same things. If I believe that my thoughts and feelings have no effect, then my thoughts and feelings aren't going to have any effect. Now, get this, it's one thing's with the placebo effect. It's because the person believes the treatment is working, not because they believe that their belief is working or that their belief in the treatment is working. What's really happening, according to science, is their belief in the treatment is working. It's their belief that's causing the healing, but they think it's the treatment. You see what I'm saying? So they're not sitting there believing, if I believe this is going to make a change. Like, if you automatically dismiss that, if you automatically say that's not going to do any good, then it's not going to do you any good, because that's what you really believe. So it's actually working. It's working because what you really believe is that your beliefs make no difference. So therefore, your belief that your beliefs make no difference is causing your beliefs to make no difference. If that makes any sense to you. So let me bring it around to myself, because I said I would do this, and we just got a few more minutes here. So what am I doing? So I'm sitting in the hospital a couple of weeks ago, facing a pretty significant health challenge. And so what am I doing? Well, number one, I'm realizing that my faith, my belief in my ability to get better, whether it's because I believe in the medicine, I believe in the doctor's treatments, or I believe that my beliefs make a difference, is going to make a difference. It's going to help. It's going to be beneficial. What it's not going to do, for sure, is bring about any harm. I'm not going to get worse by believing that I'm going to get better. I'm just going to say that again. I'm not going to get worse by believing that I'm going to get better. So, knowing what I know, I take my medicine, and I intentionally, when I'm taking my medicine with intention, sort of give thanks for the medicine and give thanks that it's working in my body, that it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do to correct the problem in my body. So I'm intentionally making sure every time I take a pill that I'm believing in that pill's ability to work. Now, because it's already passed through placebo tests, it should work with or without my belief, which is also a belief. So in other words, I'm saying, even if I don't believe this, it's going to work, which is actually belief in the pill, which is going to boost my odds, at least based on everything I researched, about 30% of the time placebo effect works. So I'm figuring that's got to boost my options about 30%. The other thing that I believe about health, and you may not share this belief, and I didn't go into this in depth, but I do believe that health is holistic. I do believe that patterns in our life that are unhealthy mentally, patterns in our life that are unhealthy for us financially, patterns in our life that are unhealthy for us relationally, patterns in our life that are unhealthy for us, if you believe in this spiritually, can and often do show up in our physical bodies, because I just believe that consciousness exists on a causal plane. I believe that consciousness is fundamental. I believe it exists, therefore, on a causal plane that absolutely 100% affects what's going on in the physical plane. Now, what I do not believe is that we can manifest outside of the parameters of our lives. So, because I do believe in God, just not God the way I used to, because I do believe that there is a plan, because I do believe that there are unseen, non-physical layers and levels to reality, because I do believe that there are non-physical entities that occupy these areas, because I do believe that we are eternal beings, that we had an existence before this life and will have an existence after this life. And I don't know, I say eternal beings, but I go back and forth on that one. I do think there can be new souls. I do believe there can be new souls that are created, possibly, that are very ripe on the tree, or not very ripe, very green on the tree of life. I think that explains a lot. But regardless, so there are things that I think we came here, objectives to achieve as souls, and things that I think we came here to learn as souls. And so I think there are certain parameters that are set around our lives that we can either make the best of or make the worst of, but we can't go beyond. So having said that, for some people, physical challenges, challenges with chronic illness, having children with physical challenges or chronic illness is part of why you're here this go around. Now, why that is, I don't know. I don't have all the answers for that. But what I'm saying is, like, we're not all powerful genies with this. Like, you can't manifest outside the parameters of your existence. Now, unless you know for a fact that you are limited by the lessons that you're supposed to learn, or you're limited by destiny, or you're limited by your stars, or whatever the case may be, I would suggest not accepting the limitation, because you don't know. Now, if you know, you know. If you don't know, you don't know. I'm just saying, like, well, because there are definitely conditions that we could not heal, for sure, ever see any results with certain people, certain types of conditions and stuff like that. Why might that be? I'm just postulating some possibilities. But even in those cases, it's not going to hurt to think positively, to create a reality. So the other thing that I'm doing is I'm speaking to my organs that are, having difficulty. I'm speaking love. I'm speaking life. I'm thinking thoughts. I'm meditating in a way that I'm bringing down divine healing light into my body and into those organs in order to heal them. Yes, I'm taking my medicine. Yes, I'm following the doctor's orders. And I'm doing these things in addition to that. Every night before I go to bed, I'm imagining myself completely well, completely healed. I'm imagining myself in my doctor's office in a few weeks, having them say, "You're fully recovered. There's a fast recovery. We haven't seen anything like this." That kind of stuff. Is that going to damage me or harm me in any way? No. Is it potentially going to help me? Absolutely, 100%. Um, so, but I just want to, there's so much to this. There's meditation and getting outside of your regular thought patterns, having new thoughts about your life, having new imaginations about your life, having new feelings, emotional feelings about your life, thinking outside of just the immediate materialist thing, the immediate person, place, or thing that you're focused on in your life, emptying your mind in that respect, quieting the mind in that respect. That is going to help you, because you have to be able to break outside of the parameters of that level of consciousness in order to affect change in the natural world. If you don't ever do that, you're not ever going to be able to be effective at bringing change. It's just not going to work for you at all. So there's that kind of meditation. There's thinking about your life in a different way. Thinking about, let's say you're struggling financially, what would it be like to be in a totally different tax bracket? Like, just take the tax bracket, quit thinking about how am I going to get there. But just take a different tax bracket. Think about what it would be like. What would it feel like? What would that level of abundance be like for you? And just putting that out there into the universe, it's not going to do you any harm. It's not. So anyway, hopefully, let's see. With due respect and love, let's see, Heaven Seal says, with due respect and love, belief magic is a product of the idea the believer has lack of power without. Due respect and love. Belief magic is a product of the idea the believer has lack of power without. I'm not really sure what that means. Sorry about that. I'll probably come back to it later and be like, oh yeah, of course. I never did come back to why do people fake spiritual gifts. Marie says, as a 40-year medical professional, I can say you are right on. Couldn't agree more. I have seen it a bazillion times. Thank you, Marie. I appreciate that. Yeah, Marion says, I'm doing the same, speaking and loving my heart, seeing it whole, yet taking the medication prescribed for me. Yeah. All right, everybody. I hope this was helpful for you. Hope you appreciated it. And thanks for tuning in for this. And I'll be with you again next week. If hopefully you had a chance to catch my talk with Jimena, my friend Jimena, last week. And hopefully you've been enjoying that series that I've been doing and the people that I've been bringing on. Again, if you're watching this later and by replay, or if you're listening to the podcast, really appreciate it. And if you want to donate to what we're doing, if you want to support what we're doing, you can go to paypal.me/New Day Global. It'll come up as New Day Global or as the Awakening Center. And you can make a donation there if you want to. Really appreciate it. Again, appreciate all the support from everybody. Appreciate you with a lot of gratitude taking your time to watch and listen to what I'm talking about. And I hope you're doing well. And I will be with you again next week.